Hey everybody, I'm going to share this out real quick, so just stand by. I'm just going to click and share out this live stream, make sure it's going, and then we'll get into the announcements. We'll get into talking about Ironman Coeur d'Alene, what happened there, and kind of what has, I guess, come out of it. So I'm just going to share this out to my personal page, just so I can get as many people seeing this as possible, and then we'll get into it. So hopefully you guys all had a great 4th of July. Going live now. I'm typing. I don't know if I can type and talk at the same time. So now, that's caps lock. All right. Post, shared, and let's get into it. Click this, click that, and all right, we're golden. Okay, so what we're going to talk about today on this episode of Mind Body Story is my race. As I said, I went to Ironman Coeur d'Alene with the family, and it was fantastic. I'm going to talk about the experience a little bit. I'm going to talk about the did not finish, what that did to me, and a little bit about the art of endurance, which is kind of a new thing that I'm developing, and I want to share that with you now. But as I said, I also hope you had a great 4th of July. I did. It was really cool because as a veteran, a lot of us, we don't necessarily like the 4th of July, which is funny because I've always thought the least favorite time of year for a lot of us, besides Christmas, is the 4th of July, which is when we celebrate our nation's independence. So as a veteran, you would think that would be like our Super Bowl. That would be like our jam. But a lot of us, have struggles with fireworks and that kind of a thing with the sudden outburst of noises at 2 in the morning sometimes. And people are lighting off bottle rockets and firecrackers in our neighborhood or whatever. But that's been part of my journey, and I've been able to do a lot of work to grow from that or heal from that, and didn't have problems this year. It was probably my best year handling fireworks. And my daughter also learned to ride a two-wheeler. We've tried it in the past, but she nailed it at the farm we were at. Plenty of open space for her to fall and crash, but that was fantastic. It was amazing. So it was a great Independence Day for me. So that's really cool. And I went on a vacation for 2 weeks. We went on an adventure. We went for Ironman Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and rolled that into 1 week of race and then 1 week of travel. So we did it in like 3 days to do this 20-some-hour drive. Stopped in North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana, Wyoming, Washington, Idaho. We just stopped and did a bunch of stuff. We went cave exploring in a cavern and hiking in the Badlands and all those things that might seem normal for a lot of people. Like, well, that's just a vacation. That's what we do. But for me and my family, that's not something we've been able to do for the majority of our time as a family. And that's a big deal for me, is that I was able to go out and give my family some sense of normalcy and who I am, bring that to the table. And it was a wonderful time. There was ups and downs, but I endured it all. And I say endurance, not to say like it was unbearable and I had to put up with it, but I endured through the points of time when I wanted to quit and pack it up and go home. And there weren't a whole lot of those moments, and that was a big mark of success for me. But we went for a race. We went for Ironman Coeur d'Alene 70.3. This is a race that I thought I had in the bag. This is a race I did not think I would struggle and not finish. And honestly, I think the reason that I didn't think that I wouldn't finish is because when you finish, two 70.3s and a full, you figure now it's all about personal best. Now it's all about breaking my record and trying new courses. Like, failure is not really something I have to worry about unless I have a bike mechanical, break a wheel. I've seen people's cranks, break off the bike and they can't really race anymore. I didn't think that I would have to worry about not finishing a swim. And that's what happened for me. I DNF'd in the water. I got out of the water, didn't even finish a swim, and that was really hard to stomach. And so I want to give you some of the facts, what happened. The day before, I got really nauseous. I got a lot of anxiety. I felt, so I couldn't tell if am I like sick? Do I have a stomach bug? Am I just nervous? And these are nerves and I just got to calm down. I don't know. Then the next morning, race morning, I'm sitting there thinking, this isn't getting any better. I feel worse. I'm shaky. Anxiety, right? Maybe. And I had really, I'm not going to go into details because I'm sure you don't want them, but I had some pretty good gastric problems. And so that continued up until the start of the race. I put my suit on, my wetsuit, and I've gained about 10 to 15 pounds. I didn't weigh myself that day, but that's what it's been hovering at. And I'm not happy with that. That's not my race shape. So this wetsuit didn't change size. I did. And now it was constricting me and I had a hard time breathing. It was not choking me, but when you get that pressure around your neck in a wetsuit and that's enhanced by extra weight gain from when you purchase the thing, it's not a comfortable experience. So we're lined up, we hit the water, which was 60 degrees, 62 degrees, which is nice for me. That felt really good. And that can be a cold temperature for a lot of people, and certainly a lot of people have bailed out of that race because that is too cold for them. But it felt really good, really refreshing, and it was like when you get water in your mouth in that lake, it was like drinking bottled water, purified water. Which you're not supposed to drink it or anything, but it was kind of nice. You know, you could see the bottom of the lake, which freaks me out because I have a lot of swim anxiety and fear that there's things that I shouldn't be seeing in the water, like monsters that are going to come and get me. So I'd prefer not seeing, but it was kind of cool to be like, wow, there's a log at the bottom of this lake and I'm swimming over it right now. But the problem came in that I was not able to breathe. This nausea was uncomfortable. It was heartburn and all this stuff. Tight wetsuit, couldn't breathe. Cold water, maybe that played physiologically into my inability to breathe, but also it was the most aggressive swim I've ever been in. And did I seat myself incorrectly? I don't know. I think after the race I heard someone say, if you're not solid on the swim, come back next year solid because this is a really aggressive swim for whatever reason. And it was a lot of clawing, a lot of fighting, and I've felt a little of that in previous races, but this was like, I felt like I was at Kona or something, which I'm sure Kona is even worse because it's the world championship and all the best athletes are there. But I mean, there was convergences of 2-3 people just climbing over each other, and you're like, I had no idea where they even came from. They're just on my head all of a sudden, or all of a sudden I'm on someone's back, and I'm like, what? Because people are zigzagging all over, and it's just clawing, and so that pushed my pace. Probably I went faster. I went to the pool today, and my swim time, I just did a 400 just to get ready for my sprint this weekend. And I swam it the 100 yards. My pace was 1:40, which is great. I would love that to be my normal pace. But I'm probably more around a 2-minute 100-yard for a consistent race pace. And so I got to relearn how to slow back down too. So, there was other factors with that pushed me a little faster than I probably wanted to go. And I wasn't in great swim shape. Honestly, that was the part of my training that really suffered. So, I have all of these facts that attributed to me not finishing. Now, I'm going to get back to the facts later and why I don't feel like I'm making excuses because I'm not, but they are excuses. They all factored into it. So we'll get back to that. So I'm going to move forward a little bit here and we'll circle back. And if I don't, just holler at me if I forget to do it. But I was disappointed. I went over to a paddleboard for the first time in my entire racing career. Like I said that like I've been racing for 15 years. In all 3 years of my racing, I, for the first time, went over to a paddleboard, took a break. They're like, take deep breaths. I was like, could not slow it down. And then I don't know how long I sat there, but I'm watching it, and I find a gap where I'm like, okay, I'll try. I swam about 100 more meters and was like, no, because I looked out, knew I had, this distance to go. And hi, Ella. 1 minute. I'm on live right now. Remember I told you that I had to be on live, and so I can't have the interruption.
Yeah, but I wanted to message Grandma.
Well, I'm busy right now, so I'll let you do that after, or you can talk to Mama, and if she can help you. But I need you to step out because I'm on a live video. Thank you. And so I'm looking at it, and I'm like, this is a 1.2 mile swim, and this is pretty early on in the swim, and I can't see myself safely doing it. So I told her, no, I'm done. They flagged someone over. I got in a jet ski to a boat to, call my wife and say, hey, I didn't finish, which, sent a lot of fear into her because, well, I don't really handle disappointment very well. So, they call it the walk of shame. This wasn't the walk of shame, but it felt that way. I felt really embarrassed walking, all these spectators, and I'm in a wetsuit. The swim is still, there's people still getting in the water, and I'm walking across all the people. I'm walking into transition. There's all these athletes. I'm trying to get out of their way because I don't want to slow them up. They're running to their bikes to get on the bike leg. And I'm just, get to my spot, and I'm like, wow, this is unbelievable. I can't believe I'm doing this. And I get all my stuff off, put on my clothes, and everyone knows I'm not a competitor anymore. But I still have to walk through transition and make sure everyone's, running around me. I don't want to hold anyone up. And I get out of transition. I ask the guy, hey, can I just hop over the fence so I'm not in the mix of it? And they help me get out. They open the fence up and I go. And I'm keeping a stiff upper lip. I'm not emotional at that point. There's a lot going on in my head. I get to the van, put my bike in, and I sit in the driver's seat, and I just lose it. I cried hard. I let it all out, and that's good. That's good. Because you can't really hold that stuff in. And the thoughts going through my head, embarrassed because I fell out so early, as if it was like mile 40 on the bike, maybe I'm thinking like there's more honor, like, oh, you came close, but no matter where you go out in a race, it's not like super easy versus super difficult to say it because, I was watching the other day and pros still, DNF swims as well for whatever reason, injury, any reason. I don't know what it is, but it happens. So I'm amongst great company. But for me, I'm embarrassed. I don't want to let people down. I have this thing in my head that says that I have to do these things still. It's still a nagging thing. This is a lifelong journey. It doesn't just go away because you do well in something. You do well in one venue, and then you go to another spot in your life, and that same thing happens. And it's those little voices pop up in your head that say, "Hey, perfection. Remember that was a big deal to you? Still is. Remember how you thought you had to impress somebody? Remember how you thought someone needed you to do something, and if you didn't do it, that you let them down and you were a failure and you're no longer valued?" It's still there. So I felt that. I didn't want to let people down. I didn't want to tell people that, hey, I didn't finish. All these comments saying, you've got this, kick its ass and you're going to do great. I know you got it, grind it, all these things, and I didn't do it. And in the past, I really didn't take these moments well. This would have been like, I'm quitting everything. I'm not a triathlete. I'm not involved in nonprofits anymore. I'm not going to communicate my message. Don't talk to me, wife. Don't talk to me, kids. I'm going to go in my cave for a month or two, and I'm going to be depressed, and nothing is going to make me happy. So I was scared that would happen too, because those thoughts creep in still. The thoughts say, well, this isn't for you. This isn't what you're supposed to be doing. But that's just my old me trying to keep me safe. Because the known world was failure, and you tried something, it didn't work out, so now go back to that comfortable place of being emotionally numb, of being depressed, because we had a lot of security in that. There was really no risk. But that's not who I am anymore, so I can see those things coming, and I can challenge them. And the way I challenged it was I got centered a little bit, took some breaths, I went out and I walked around a little bit to kind of just move my body, get some of the thoughts out, and then say, you've got to say a message. And I did it when I was empowered enough to not be, woe is me, super depressed. I want to freak people out and make people think that I'm in a really dark place. But I got, comfortable, and I said, hey, I'm embarrassed. I'm sad. I'm really emotional. But this is what happened. And then the coolest thing happened. When I shared it, people rallied around me. And this is a message I've told people a lot is if you've never been vulnerable, if you've never taken that risk, Facebook and social media are a fantastic place to do it. And when you do it, when you not put all of your dirty laundry out, not put the worst hurt in your life out there that you've never shared with anyone, but when you take a step into sharing something that's very vulnerable, and you see people around you, they come out of the woodworks. People aren't always going to engage in your posts, everything that you post, but when I posted that, people were like, bam, 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 we don't care if you win or lose. We value you. And people rallied around that. And it was like such an unbelievable emotional outpouring because I had my cry. I'm really disappointed in myself. I'm really sad. This is a valid emotional response because I wanted this. I don't want to fail. But when I failed and I saw everyone was still around me, nobody left me, nobody abandoned me, it destroyed my narrative. Because my narrative was if I love someone, if I open up in vulnerability and I don't succeed, if I get hurt, then everyone will leave me and I'll be alone. And I will be no better than for having taken the risk. So I'll shame myself and I'll stay alone. But when I took that step and I was vulnerable and I fell on my face and nobody cared, only people cared that I was okay. And they wanted me to know that That's not why they value me. They value me because I'm here and I'm vulnerable and I'm just putting it out there. And that has been something that my mentors have told me is my greatest strength, and I forget it so often. I forget it because I still have that drive to be somebody strong and someone important. As if Ironman, World Championships would be that thing that if I could just win, that then people would believe that I have a message, or then people would think I'm something. But I don't really want that kind of pressure. That's not who I am. And when I saw people care more for me than what I was doing, it freed me up to just be like, man, just let it go. And one of my friends, a lot of friends said, personal messages to me, not even on just Facebook, but just sent me messages, left me voicemails. I wasn't in a place that I could talk, and that's okay, because sometimes you're too raw to get on a phone call. And that's what's nice about Facebook too, is I can quick do a nice coherent message. Say I'm hurting, this is where I'm at, and be honest, and then they come and they leave messages, and when I'm ready, I can talk to them. Because sometimes, I'm just a bundle of emotion, and I'm not going to be able to form a coherent sentence, and I'm not ready for that. But the first message I got was, I think, from Philip Parsons, my friend, and he said, I got one question for you. When's the next race? And I love that, because that's how I am now. That's how I feel now, it's like, all right, what do we learn from it? When's the next race? Be stronger for the next one. We've got that stuff out of the way. We got that fail out of the way. You know where your weaknesses were. You know what happened. Let's go. And that's kind of tying into that excuses thing. And I'm still going to get to that, but not yet. Because I'm still talking about this after effect, like this outpouring. And that's one of my greatest joys. And that's what I love when people do. When people take that risk, whatever it is. Some people my mom, when she was I don't know how old, but she had a miscarriage. And that was something that people don't really talk about, and maybe still they don't. But she mentioned it, I think she said it was at work or something, and then she was shocked because people just started saying me too, and she had no idea that these people had miscarriages. But when one person speaks up and says, I had this happen, it allows us to say me too, because we're not alone. But we were just looking for someone to crack open that door just to give us that freedom to have that voice, to voice that thing that we really wanted to talk about, but we're afraid to. So that's what happened here. And yeah, and it's my greatest strength. And honestly, I think that's what the world needs more of, is learning how to be vulnerable in a healthy way. Vulnerability is not weakness. Vulnerability is openness. And in learning how to use that, because yeah, I did the other side where I'd be a victim and whiny and all that, and that's not vulnerability. That's victim thinking. And vulnerability is saying, from a place of empowerment, this is how I felt, this is what happened, and this is what I'm going to do. Even if that is like, I don't know what I'm going to do about this, but I know what I'm not going to do. And that is, I'm not going to sit here and binge eat and binge watch TV and stay out of relationship and avoid it altogether. Sometimes that's, I don't know what I'm going to do about racing, but I know I'm going to keep pushing forward. I don't know, but I know I'm going to go out and take risk again. It might not be in the same arena that I'm currently healing from, but I'm going to keep taking risk and keep chasing growth. Now, for me, I'm going to keep racing. I'm going to go back to Coeur d'Alene next year because I have unfinished business. Got it up on the wall. And every time my bike is right there, so it's in my line of sight. But I'm going to see that. So I can remember, it didn't destroy you. You might not win the course next year, but you're going to finish it. Because you have unfinished business, and that's a motivator. Sometimes our failures can become great motivators. But my excuses that I mentioned earlier, excuses, I think it's a definition difference. Excuses and facts, right? So excuses are reasons that we failed and maybe it was out of our control. Facts are excuses also are things that we can't overcome, and we just blame them without any intention of actually improving or growing or trying. So what I say is these are just the facts. And the facts are very important if we're going to make any growth. We have to look at the facts. And so I know that they didn't define my success or failure, and that I wouldn't continue to use them as an excuse for my next race. And everything that came up is like, well, the same thing happened. Like, I just got my get out of jail free card, and I DNF'd and they were factors. But now I can look at those factors and decide which ones I had control over, and I can address them. I couldn't have used them to justify that I should quit, but instead I can call my attention. They can call my attention to where I need to grow and focus next. And for me, there's two I would say real big factors, and that's swim fitness. You can't miss that many workouts in the pool or in open water. You have to get that time in. So I know that I took that intentional time away to address some other things, and it bit me in the butt. Like, I know I can't just keep doing Ironman races if I'm not swimming. And it also let me know, like, hey, you knew that the weight gain was not ideal, but now you can see how it took you from being able to do this amazing thing, and it really limited you. You couldn't fit into your wetsuit the right way, so you couldn't breathe in the water. That's pretty foundational to being able to enjoy anything or complete anything. So that's going to become a very big part of my journey when I'm talking about this art of endurance, and I'll get to that in a minute. But life really is like that, isn't it? Setbacks and failures, they often, when you look at it, are the grindstone on which we sharpen our sword. Without that grindstone, the sword dulls, it becomes less effective. And sometimes failure reminds us of our true strengths and how to wield that sword. If that sword of vulnerability is not what I'm wielding and it's something else, I'm not going to be effective with it, because in sword fighting and martial arts, you have to learn the discipline to be effective in it. If I learn Kung Fu and then I go try to be a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu artist, I'm not going to do that well. So if I'm not using my weapon that I've been sharpening, I'm not going to do that well. And if I'm not sharpening it, it's not going to be effective either. So that grindstone is failure and setback. So what happened to me is I failed the swim, and I'm going to invest in the swim. I'm going to get tighter on my diet. I'm going to, track the food to see what food allows me to not eat my muscle with my training, how many calories I need, how many calories I'm burning, and really figure that out. Because if you're not doing these metrics, it's too big of a guessing game. And nutrition is too important to what I want to do. And so I have to take those measures. I have to get in the pool. I have to strengthen that. And all of these things, the weight loss, just factors into it. Because it's not about a physique for me. It's about psyche over physique. Like, the physique will come, and it can limit you. But there's a mental block that prevents me from doing these things, that it's too hard to track all my food. It's too hard to get to the pool. I can't figure it out, but I can. I can figure it out. It's just going to take more work on my end, and communication, which is really key, is my communication with my family to get to the pool. So vulnerability and open-hearted honesty, that's my sword, and that's what I'm going to wield. And to wield it well, I'm going to share my successes and my failures. That's what I'm going to do, and part of that is my weight gain. Like I said, 15 pounds isn't a ton of weight. Like, it doesn't seem like that big of a number, and I am no way insinuating that my body is disgusting and, I'm not happy with it, but I'm not trying to put that out there. It's limiting me, and if it's limiting me, that's a problem. Anything that limits us, we have to address. Could be mental or physical. So that's what I'm addressing. And so what that means for this is I'm going to change up the podcast a little bit. Still doing the mind-body story, how we can use our minds and our bodies to write the best life story possible. Still doing that. Still bringing on guests who are writing a different story than me, but an equally valuable story, because we have to get across spectrum of all of these different ways to live our lives, because my way is not the right way for everybody. So we're still doing that. But I'm going to add another episode every week on Thursdays. And it's going to be called The Art of Endurance. And what I'm going to do there, it's going to be a real-time thing, because right now, Mind, Body, Story, I think an episode coming out in 2 weeks was recorded on Father's Day. And so in it, we talk about Father's Day for a brief time. And so it's like, isn't that gone? So it's not in real time. They're pre-recorded and put out there so that I can guarantee you, if I get a setback in a week, there's still going to be content for you. But The Art of Endurance is going to be my life, my journey post Ironman Coeur d'Alene and getting ready for Ironman Wisconsin, because I'm going to finish that one. I'm going to be ready and control everything I can control and lay it out there. So Art of Endurance is going to be my journey. It's going to be relevant topics to my journey every week on Thursday. So that's what that's going to be. And I was reminded, through this whole process, that's really what my greater purpose is. My greatest purpose in Mind Body Story and the Art of Endurance is helping people endure life. And I'm not saying endurance like, gut it out and like it's unbearable, but you need to endure situations in training and in life to not quit. And I want to help others understand that. So that's going to be kind of the focus as well. And through fitness, I became better able to endure races and endure life. Like that was how this whole thing started. And that's the lifelong journey of pursuing growth physically and mentally. And fitness has been that wonderful, best way for me to do it and for others too. So I'm just going to put that out there. And I hope that resonates with you and you'll enjoy that aspect of it as well. So really that's all I wanted to cover today. So I don't know if anyone had any questions, but I'd love to hear them if you did. And I know that this is broadcast maybe at a time where people aren't watching it, but hopefully in the replay, if you want to ask questions or comment, that comment section is open. I'll happily readdress any questions that you have and or anything you were confused about or I didn't cover. Absolutely would love to help you with that. But yeah, so that's going forward. I have an interval run session to get to after this, so I'm going to hop off pretty soon here and do that. But that's the gist of it. The Art of Endurance is going to, well, this is the first episode of The Art of Endurance. I'll take this audio, put it into a podcast format, and release it on that platform as well. So that'll be available tonight, hopefully, maybe tomorrow, probably tomorrow. But then every Thursday going forward, I'm probably going to do lives for the most part, if I can. I mean, life might hand me a situation that I need to pre-record it because, what happens with kids and family and all that stuff. But I'm going to do my best to be live every evening around this time to cover what I'm doing in training, what setbacks I'm having, my progress, things around endurance sport primarily. That's what it's going to be. And how it helps me with dealing with those emotional growth things that I do cover mostly in the Mind Body Story leg of this machine, as it were. So that's what this is all about, and I just want to share that with you guys this way and let you know this is how it's going to be for the foreseeable future. So yeah, thanks for joining me and continuing to join me. And I look forward to sharing this process with you because it's also accountability for me. This is also me putting something out there to make sure that I have you guys holding me accountable to following through. Even if you don't do anything, I've put it out there in my mind that says that's a contract between you and me, and I have to follow through on that. So, feet to the fire, guys. I'm not ruined by this failure. I would have been 2-3 years ago. I would have been destroyed. But now I've just got new artwork on the wall, a new motivation to go and get my health going, get my mind right, and to show myself that I have grown because it didn't destroy me. That's the art of endurance, and that's what we're going to be talking about. So that'll do it for tonight. Thanks for joining me again. And until next time, journey well, my friends.